Hello friends, welcome back to your English class. Today we will discuss the third chapter of your supplementary reader, Journey to the End of the Earth by Tisani Doshi. Tisani Doshi is a South Indian writer and a dancer who is of Welsh and Gujarati origin, and among her other works, Girls Are Coming Out of the Woods, Small Days and Nights, The Pleasure Seekers, Everything Begins Elsewhere, and Countries of the Body are very famous. In this chapter, she has beautifully depicted her experiences of an expedition with a group of teenagers, and the name of that expedition was Students on Ice program, which is meant to take young minds to different end of the world to bring an insight into their mind about the continent Antarctica. There are real pictures of her experiences in this chapter, and she depicts that at Antarctica you can study the past, present, and the future of the human generation. You can see the realistic image of our forthcoming days. Antarctica is the world's most isolated, preserved, windiest, and coldest continent. Through this chapter, the author has tried to make the man in general aware of his disastrous effects on the overall environment of the earth and its impact on the existence of all the flora and fauna of the earth. On Antarctica, you can realize the real threat of global warming, the increasing in the global temperature. You can realize the disaster. Our discussion of this chapter will be divided into three sections. First, we will go through a general introduction through a mind map method. Then we will read the original text, and in the last section we will discuss some important questions that have appeared in the previous year's CBSE question papers. So let us begin with our general introduction through a mind map. Friends, this is the mind map. You can take a screenshot of this mind map so that you may be able to prepare it in your notebook. I have tried my best to summarize all the points of this chapter in this mind map. So let us study. So first of all, we should know what Antarctica continent is. It is the world's coldest, driest, and windiest continent. It is situated at the South Pole, and it is the testimony of past, present, and future of this earth. The chapter will discuss different aspects which are related with the evolution of this Mother Earth. This Antarctica continent is the remaining of Gondwana about 500 million years ago, after separating from other continents. Actually, Gondwana existed where now Antarctica is, and Gondwana was a supercontinent, and with the passage of time other continents were formed, and some cracks were there. These continents started moving towards the equator, and the globe took its present shape. 90% of ice of the total earth is present in Antarctica. It is having a very simple ecosystem and lacking biodiversity. No vegetation is available there, only ice you can see there because temperature is very low there. 500,000 years old carbon records are trapped in the ice sheets, which are the testimony, which are the record of our past. What kind of environment was present at that time and what kind of environment we are having at present. So we can speculate about our future from this analysis. This is in short about Antarctica. Friends, I am taking you to this app which is called Google Earth. Here we can see that this is This is the North Pole and this is the South Pole. We are here in India. At the South Pole, right here, you can see that there is a continent, and this continent is named as Antarctica. This is Antarctica. This is isolated place. It is shown in the Google Earth in white color because it is covered with full ice. No vegetation is there. You can see other continents are shown in green or brown color or some reddish. These are the signs of vegetation or biodiversity. So you can see this is situated at the South Pole. The author started its journey from Chennai. Here in India, Chennai is situated here. Here from Chennai, she started her journey and she reached ultimately Antarctica. Somewhat here. This is Antarctica. Here, this will be discussed in detail in this chapter. How did she completed this journey and all that we will discuss. So the journey which is under our study, which was performed by the author, was part of a program which was named as Students on Ice. It was established by a Canadian, Geoff Green, in year 2000. It is still functioning and you can visit its website also. It is www.studentsonice.com. You can visit the site and know the details as well. She was the part of this program. They performed this journey by the ship, and the ship was named as Academic Sokolotsky. 52 students were there. The aim was to take high school students to Antarctica. It was headed by a Canadian, Geoff Green, and the journey was started from Madras and ended at Antarctica. They crossed 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints and 3 bodies of water, 3 seas actually. 100 hours total. She had to travel for 100 hours. Set foot on Antarctica after that, and it created a mindset to respect our planet. She saw the glaciers retreating, ice shelves collapsing. She realized the threat of global warming. She spent 2 weeks in this whole program and realized why should we save our environment so as to predict our future, so as to make our future bright. There is a question about this program, that why Antarctica has been selected for this purpose, because they can go to some other country or somewhere else in the world, but Antarctica has been selected because it is having our past, present and future in its layers of ice. There is a carbon record available, and with the study of that carbon record we can see how the environment is changing from the past to the present, and we can predict also our future. We can know the significance of Cordilleran folds, Precambrian granite shields, ozone and carbon layer, evolution and extinction of humans. Now the next important point which is under our study is the human impact on the environment. Humans have been sharing this earth from last 12,000 years, as is estimated by the scientists. Only few seconds, this age of 12,000 years is just a few seconds on the geological clock. Now what is a geological clock? Actually, according to the various theories regarding evolution of earth appeared on the universal scene about 4,600 years 600 million years before. This is the time period, and it has been divided into various other ages. Let us see the geological clock of the earth. This is a picture which I have taken from Wikipedia, and it is showing the geological age of the earth. 4550 million years before earth was evolved, and after that, because in the pristine time, in the earlier time, it was very hot, it was just like a burning ball, and with the passage of time it became cold, and then a supercontinent Gondwana existed. Another theories are there, Pangaea and Panthalassa, they existed. After that Gondwana existed, and then Gondwana was again broke into some continents, and they moved towards the equator, ultimately forming the present day earth, giving its present day earth shape. So this geological clock is divided into hidden period, then Archean period, then comes Proterozoic, then comes Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic age. After this Cenozoic age, here comes these ages when such things existed: hominins, mammals, land plants, animals, and others, eukaryotes, prokaryotes. They are getting existed after a passage of time. In this period of 4550 million years, 12,000 years is a very short period. So if you are asked to depict 12,000 in this circle, it will be very difficult for you to even make a point on this circle for 12,000 years, because that point will be more than those 12,000 years. So human existence on this earth is for a very short period of time on this planet. But in this short age of 12,000 years, human beings have quite dominated nature, and this is a battle between humans and other species which are existed on this earth. We have created a carbon dioxide blanket by burning the fossil fuel. Thus we have created the greenhouse effect, and increasing the average global temperature. We are continuously increasing it, and which is leading to the melting of ice in western Antarctica. We will discuss all these points in detail while reading the text as well. Now the next important point which is under our study is the example of phytoplankton, which has been discussed by the author just to prove a little saying. The little saying is that she had made an analysis, and analysis is that little environmental change can result in big repercussions, big consequences. Little environmental change can produce big results. So how could it be explained? She has taken an example of a phytoplankton. This is a unicellular plant. Unicellular means it is having only one cell with one nucleus, and chloroplast is there, other things of the cell are there. So this is unicellular plant, and it is very important for the food chain of Southern Ocean, because it is the producer, it is the base of this food chain. It is providing food to the other components of the food chain. This is an example of microscopic phytoplankton. It nourishes and sustains Southern Ocean food chain. It is a single cell plant, make food by photosynthesis. This is the process of making food, but its activities of photosynthesis are very much affected by the ozone layer depletion. It is affecting its photosynthesis process, and if the photosynthesis will be affected, the food chain will be disturbed because it will lead to the destruction of marine animals, then birds, then global carbon cycle will be disturbed as well. So this is the proof to show that little environmental change can result in big consequences. So these are the total 5 points, and I have tried my best to summarize the whole chapter in these 5 points. Let us discuss the text. The chapter is Journey to the End of the Earth by Tishani Doshi. Before our reading, a statement has been made. If you want to know more about the planet's past, present and future, Antarctica is the best place to go. So the chapter reads like this. Early this year I found myself aboard a Russian research vessel, the academic Sokolsky, heading towards the coldest, driest, windiest continent in the world, Antarctica. We were going to Antarctica through this vessel. This is named as academic Sokolsky. My journey began 13.09 degrees north of the equator in Madras nowadays, which is called Chennai, and involved crossing 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water and at least as many ecosphere. Ecosphere is a part of land where the interaction between the plants and animals is discussed in a scientific way. That is called ecosphere. So I also crossed so many ecospheres, 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints and 3 bodies of water. Bodies of water, actually 3 seas she had to cross. Let us understand this point through this map. Here it is the equator. These are all imaginary lines on the globe. These lines are not existing on the globe, but they are imaginary and for our study purpose only. This is the equator line dividing the earth into northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Then there is a prime meridian line. There are longitudinal lines as well, the standing lines, and these lines are total 24 lines. These are 24, and between each two lines there is a difference of 15 degrees. 15 degrees is equal to 1 hour. So if we are going from this prime meridian line to this first line, then there will be a change of time in 1 hour. Means if the time is 12 noon here on the prime meridian, on the first line the time will be 1 p.m. and if we are going to this side, the time will decrease. Here on the first line after prime meridian, the time will be 11 a.m. So by this method we have calculated the whole Earth's timing. We have set our timings, and these are used to calculate our time zones. So each and every country is divided into some time zone. Here India is situated. Here it is India, and the author has started this journey from Chennai, which was earlier Madras, 13.09 degrees north of equator. We are in northern hemisphere. This is equator line. We are in northern hemisphere, eastern northern. This is eastern part, east, and this is west. So we are in northern eastern hemisphere of the earth. We have, and the author have started this journey from Madras to Antarctica. This is Antarctica at the South Pole. So this is all about this discussion. By the time I actually set foot on Antarctic continent, I had been traveling over 100 hours in combination of a car, an aeroplane, and a ship. So my first emotion on facing Antarctica's expensive white landscape. It is not expensive actually, it is used for huge white landscape and uninterrupted blue horizon was relief. I was quite relieved to see Antarctica. Followed up with an immediate and profound wonder. I was also wondrous. I was also having amazement with me, wonder at its immensity, hugeness, its isolation, loneliness, but mainly at how there could ever have been a time when India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. Landmass is a part of land which is covered by water from the whole side. So the area was covered by water, and once it was Gondwana, a supercontinent, and which was broken into continents, and the present shape of Earth come to its existence. What the part of history says is that 650 million years ago, a giant amalgamated southern supercontinent Gondwana did indeed exist. Gondwana existed somehow about 650 million years ago, centered roughly around the present day Antarctica. Things were quite different then. Humans had not arrived on the global scene, and the climate was much warmer, hosting a huge variety of flora and fauna. Flora and fauna means plants and birds and animals. Flora for plants and fauna means birds and animals. For 500 million years, Gondwana thrived. Thrived means flourished, bloomed. Gondwana existed for 500 million years. But around the time when the dinosaurs were wiped out and the age of mammals got underway, the landmass was forced to separate into countries. But due to some internal processes of the earth, Gondwana, the bigger landmass, was forced to separate into it, break into countries, and shaping the globe much as we know it. And the parts of that Gondwana started moving towards the equator. To visit Antarctica now is to be a part of that history, to get a grasp of where we have come from and where we could possibly be heading. If we are visiting Antarctica, we can study our past. Then we can study our present as well. And then after study of past and present, we can analyze what our future will be. It is to understand the significance of Cordilleran folds and Precambrian granite shields. These are the ages, Cordilleran and Precambrian, and the folds and granite shields. These are the different kind of mountains in the whole world, and they are created in these period of times, and they are the time periods related with the evolution of the earth. When you think about all that can happen in a million years, it can get pretty mind-boggling, overwhelming. Your mind will be overwhelmed when you think that what can happen in a million years time. It can get pretty mind-boggling. Imagine India pushing northwards, jamming against Asia to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas. India was once the part of Gondwana. When it struck with Asia, a bigger continent, Himalaya was formed. South America drifted off to join North America, opening up the Drake Passage to create a cold circumpolar current, keeping Antarctica frigid, desolate, and at the bottom of the world. When the other continents started moving towards the equator, suppose this is our Earth. First, it was Gondwana there, equator is here. So it broke into continents and they started moving towards the equator and towards the North Pole. And what happened ultimately, the remaining part was now named as Antarctica. And when these parts of Gondwana started moving towards north, different kind of passages in the sea were formed. One of them is Drake Passage. Drake Passage is a kind of a sea, you can say, a sea, part of sea which is between Antarctica and North America. Friends, this is a map of Drake Passage available on Wikipedia. Here you can see the part of Chile, Argentina, and here it is South Shetland Islands. These are the part of Antarctica, and between these two you can see it is a part of Southern Ocean which is named as Drake Passage. Another important aspect which is related with Antarctica as being the most cold continent in the world is due to this effect that is named as ACC, Antarctic Circumpolar Current. That is an ocean current that flows clockwise in the direction of the clock as seen from the South Pole from west to east around Antarctica. There is an alternative name for this ACC is west wind drift, and this is the dominant circulation feature of the Southern Ocean and has a mean transport estimated at 100 to 150 swerdrups or possibly even higher, making it the largest ocean current. The current is circumpolar due to the lack of any landmass connecting with Antarctica, and this keeps warm ocean waters away from Antarctica. Because of this circumpolar current, hot water will be away, warm water will be away from Antarctica, and this will enable that continent to maintain its huge ice sheets and protecting our environment as well. This picture is also given on Wikipedia. This matter has also been taken from Wikipedia. Here you can see that this is Antarctica, and around this continent these currents flow in clockwise direction, in the direction of the clock, and due to these currents, hot water, warm water will be away from it, and Antarctica will be cold. For a sun worshipping South Indian like myself, 2 weeks in a place where 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored in a chilling prospect, just to make the environment cool. Not just for circulatory or metabolic functions, but also for the imagination. It will cool your imagination as well, because the continent is so huge, and nowhere you can see any kind of vegetation or human markers. It is like walking into a giant ping pong ball. If you are walking in Antarctica, you will notice it that you are walking in a ping pong ball devoid of any human markers, no trees, billboards, buildings. You lose all earthly sense of perspective and time here. Here you will see that you cannot measure time, because for the whole 24 hours light is there. The visual scale ranges from the microscopic to the mighty midges and mites to blue whales. Animals could be seen up to the size of blue whale. From midges, these are some small insects like mosquito, and icebergs as big as countries. The largest recorded was the size of Belgium. Days go on and on and on in surreal 24 hours austral summer light. For 24 hours there is light available, and there is no night, so you are losing all earthly sense of perspective and time. And a ubiquitous silence. Ubiquitous means which is present everywhere, uninterrupted, and this silence is only interrupted by the occasional avalanche or calving ice sheets. Avalanche means rapidly falling down ice from the mountainside. If the ice pieces, or a you can say a big ice piece is sliding from the mountainside, it is called avalanche or calving, breaking of ice sheets. Consecrate the place. It is an immersion that will force you to place yourself in a context of the Earth's geological history, and for humans, the prognosis isn't good. Prognosis, you can say prediction. So, it is an immersion that will force you to place yourself in the immersion means interest. It is an interest that will force you to place yourself in the context of the Earth's geological. When you see all these things, avalanche, calving of ice, and silence and austral sunlight, you will be forced to study the geological history of this continent. And when you will study the past, present will be before you, and you can prognosis, you can predict your future as well. And you know that prognosis will not be good for human beings. What humans have done, human civilization have been around for paltry mere 12,000 years, barely a few seconds on the geological clock. In that short amount of time, we have managed to create quite a ruckus. Ruckus means confusion or uproar. We have made an uproar, we have made a cry that everything is for human beings. We have proved our rights on each and every natural resource, dominating the other participants of the earth, other species of the earth, etching our dominance over nature and our villages. With our villages, towns, cities, megacities, the rapid increase of human population has left us battling with other species for limited resources, and the unmitigated burning of fossil fuel has now created a blanket of carbon dioxide. We have started burning the fossil fuel, and this is producing carbon dioxide, and due to carbon dioxide we are creating a greenhouse effect, a layer of carbon dioxide in our environment, and which is making our environment, making our Earth's environment hotter and hotter day by day. Around the world, which is slowly but surely increasing the average global temperature due to greenhouse effect. This is the effect which is caused by carbon dioxide, because it is allowing the sun's heat to the earth, but it is not dispersing earth's heat outside. Climate change is one of the most hotly contested environmental debates in our time, and it is leading to some questions. Will the West Antarctic ice sheet melt entirely? Will the Gulf Stream ocean current be disrupted? Will it be the end of the world as we know it? Either maybe or maybe not. Either way, Antarctica is a crucial element in this debate. When we are debating environmental issue, any kind of environmental issue, Antarctica will be at central. Now, just because it is the only place in the world which has never sustained a human population, there is no population on this continent, and therefore remains relatively pristine. Pristine means which is untouched. So this whole continent is untouched by human markers in this respect. But more important aspect of Antarctica is because it holds in its ice cores 500,000 years old carbon records trapped in its layers of ice. If we want to study and examine the Earth's past, present and future, Antarctica is the place to go. If we want to study the past of the Earth, present is before us, and we can analyze the past and present, and we can predict our future. So for this study you will have to go to Antarctica, because 500,000 years before carbon records are available in the ice sheets. Students on Ice, the program I was working with on the Shokal Sky, aims to do exactly this by taking high school students to the end of the world and providing them with inspiring educational opportunities. high school students have been given this opportunity to go and study such things, which will help them foster a new understanding, create a new understanding and respect our planet. It has been in operation for 6 years now. When the author went there, this was the 6th year of its foundation. The program Students on Ice was founded in year 2000 by a Canadian, Geoff Green. Headed by Canadian Geoff Green, who got tired of courting celebrities and retired rich curiosity seekers who could only give back in a limited way. He was tired of courting, taking those people to Antarctica and other polar regions, and then he started taking students, because they are the policy makers for future. When their time will come, they will be the leaders of their age. Policymakers, a life-changing experience at an age when they are ready to absorb, learn, and most importantly, act. And this is the age of learning. When you are taking the students to some expedition, they will learn a lot, and they will absorb so many things from this expedition. And the most important thing is that they will act accordingly. The reason the program has been so successful is because it's impossible to go anywhere near the South Pole and not be affected by it. It is to be blaze about polar ice caps melting while sitting in the comfort zone of our respective latitude and longitude. It is easy to analyze when we are sitting in our rooms and discussing the melting of ice sheets and retreating glaciers. But when you can visibly see glaciers retreating and ice shelves collapsing, you begin to realize that the threat of global warming is very real. When you will go and see the glaciers melting really in actual, you will analyze that the threat of global warming is absolutely correct. Antarctica, because of our simple ecosystem and lack of biodiversity, is the perfect place to study how little changes in environment can have big repercussions. Now the author is taking a simple statement that little changes in the environment can have big repercussions, the consequences, results. Take the microscopic phytoplankton. She is taking an example of phytoplankton, which is found in Southern Ocean, a kind of a unicellular plant. It is single cell plant, only single cell is there and other parts of the cell are there. And the most important feature of phytoplankton is that this is the base, this is the producer of the food chain of Southern Ocean, and it is producing food. Those grasses of the sea that nourish and sustain the entire Southern Ocean's food chain, these single-celled plants, they are having only one cell, and they use the sun's energy to assimilate carbon and synthesize organic compounds in that wondrous and most important of process that is called photosynthesis. By the process of photosynthesis, they are making food. Scientists warn that a further depletion in the ozone layer, but this process of photosynthesis in phytoplankton is very much affected by the depletion of ozone layer, and if this process is disturbed, the whole food chain will be disturbed, because they are the base. Phytoplankton is the base, the producer of this food chain. If the producer will be affected, the whole chain would be disturbed, which in turn will affect the lives of all the marine animals and birds of the region and the global carbon cycle. In the parable of phytoplankton, in the story, parable means story, in the story of phytoplankton, there is a great metaphor of existence. Take care of small things. So the need is that we should take care of small things, and big things will fall into place. The bigger things will be controlled by it. Now she is sharing her own experience of walking on the ocean. We cannot walk on ocean, but here in Antarctica, the water is frigid, and you can walk on ocean. My Antarctic experience was full of such epiphanies. Epiphanies means an experience of a sudden and striking realization, but the best occurred just short of the Antarctic Circle at 65.55 degrees south. The Chocolsky had managed to wedge herself into a thick white stretch of ice between the peninsula and Tadpole Island. Between these two islands, the captain wedged the ship, the Chocolsky, which is named as Chocolsky. Wedge means fix in a narrow space, and decided that the captain decided we are going to turn around and head back north. Now we are to go back. But before we did, we were all instructed to climb down the gangplank and walk on the ocean. Gangplank means a movable plank which is used to board the ship or disembark from the ship. You can say a simple board which is used to, a simple platform which is used to board a ship. And we have been given a chance to climb down the gangplank, climb down this platform and walk down on the ocean. So there we were, all 52 of us, kitted out in Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is a waterproof synthetic fabric and glares. We were having shining clothes, fancy clothes, walking on the stark whiteness that seemed to spread out forever. Underneath our feet was a thick meter ice pack, and underneath that 180 meters of living, breathing salt water. In the periphery, crab-eater seals were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floes, much like stray dogs will do under the shade of a banyan tree. Just like stray dogs, they stretch under the shade of banyan trees. The crab-eater seals, they were stretching at the periphery of this area. Periphery means boundary. It was nothing short of a revelation. Everything does indeed connect. Everything here in this world, in this environment, is connected with each other. 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and many ecospheres. Later, I was still wondering about the beauty of balance in play on our planet. How would it be if Antarctica were to become the warm place that it once used to be? Will we be around to see it, or would we have gone the way of the dinosaurs, mammoths, woolly rhinos? Who is to say? But after spending 2 weeks with a bunch of teenagers who still have the idealism to save the world, all I can say is that a lot can happen in a million years. But what a difference a day makes. Little things can change the whole world. So we should also learn from our experience, even of a day, and act accordingly so as to save our environment for a better future. With this, your chapter ends here. Now we will discuss some important questions from this chapter which have appeared in the previous year's CBSE question papers. For the last 3 or 4 years, the chapter was not in the syllabus, it was in deleted part. So the questions in last 4-5 years did not appear, and I have collected these questions from the papers of 2004, 5, 6, 8 and 2010. So first question is, how can a visit to Antarctica can be an enlightening experience? The value points which I have collected are: if we want to understand the Earth's past, present and future, Antarctica is the best place to go, because here you can teach the next generation to understand and value our planet. Because on Antarctica, in ice sheets, you can find 500,000 years old carbon records, which is a testimony of our past, and the future generation can visually see and realize the real threat of global warming. Here you can see, here you can evidence the avalanche, the calving of ice sheets and the retreating glaciers. So these are the experiences which are very much enlightening for anybody who is visiting Antarctica. The next question is, how is Antarctica a crucial element in the debate of climate change? The question has again asked with a different language, why is Antarctica and its understanding important for the survival of the world? Why is it important? We have discussed all these points in our mind map as well, that this is the only place in the world without any human population, and thus it is pristine, it is untouched. 90% ice of the whole world is present here, and 500,000 years old carbon records are also available, also trapped in its layers of ice. It is having a very simple ecosystem and it lacks biodiversity. If global warming makes Antarctica warmer, glaciers will melt, and that will create a disaster because the sea level will rise to a huge. The whole ecosystem of the earth will be disturbed with it. These are the points which we are supposed to mention in our answer. Next comes, what was the objective of the Students on Ice program? The question was again asked with a different language. What do you think is the reason behind the success of the program Students on Ice? Or how the program Students on Ice was an attempt to equip future generation with the knowledge to save the earth? The points which I suggest are, the program was initiated by Mr. Geoff Green. He was a Canadian in year 2000 to take high school students to Antarctica, the polar region, to sense the threat of global warming, provide the opportunities, educational opportunities, and to know the present, past and future of this earth. On Antarctica you can study the 500,000 years old carbon records which is present in its ice sheets, and the students are actually the future policy makers. They will be the leaders in their field when they will come to their age. Provide them a life-changing experience. This program is meant for giving them providing them a life-changing experience at an age when they are ready to observe, learn, and most importantly, they are ready to act accordingly. They will save our earth. They can learn how little changes in environment can have big repercussions. They would act to save the planet from ecological hazards and the harmful effects of global warming. So these are the things which these are the points which I think that should be in the answer. Next comes, what are phytoplanktons? How are they important to our ecosystem? We have studied this question that phytoplankton is a unicellular plant, single cell plant. It nourishes and sustains the entire southern ocean food chain. They are the primary producer and the base of the food chain. They use the sunlight to assimilate carbon and synthesize compounds through a complex process which is known as photosynthesis. But this process is affected by the depletion of ozone layer, and any further depletion in the ozone layer will hamper the activity which could disturb the entire food chain, including the marine animals, birds, and even the global carbon cycle. This is the testimony, this is the example which has been used by the author to prove the saying that little changes in environment can lead to big repercussions. So these are the most important questions which I have selected from the previous year's papers, and I hope that if you are preparing the points as I have discussed through mind map, through the study of the text, and through these questions, surely you will get good marks in the final examinations. Thank you very much. Thanks for being with me. Please like, share and comment. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.